You're watching UATV News. My name is Ina Kosinska. Good evening. A minute of silence, an aircraft in the sky, coffins covered with national flags. In Kharkiv, they have said goodbye to the cadets and officers who died in the plane crash near Kyiv. President Volodymyr Zelensky has awarded all of them with medals for military service to Ukraine. About the farewell to young guys whose biggest dream was aviation and the sky, our correspondents will tell.
Sentinels along the perimeter of Freedom Square. At exactly 10 o'clock in the morning, a procession of 25 hearses arrive. The honor guard carry out coffins covered with state flags, the anthem of Ukraine playing. The names and titles of each of the 18 cadets of the Ivan Kozhedub Kharkiv National Air Force University and 7 crew members who died in the An-26 training plane crash are being read out loud in the square.
Капітан Остапенко Олексій Георгійович, штурман загонного авіаційного загону транспортної авіаційної ескадрильї навчальної авіаційної бригади Харківського національного університету повітряних сил. Військова частина А.
Friends and families are meeting their dearest ones here. At the farewell ceremony, the President of Ukraine and First Lady, as well as hundreds of Kharkiv residents, are present. Cadets of Ukrainian universities and Army Min have joined the minute of silence.
Our children who aspired to serve to their homeland have tragically died. It feels almost unbearable. I understand those women, I understand those mothers who have lost their dearest sons. I can hardly speak because of tears.
In the sky above the square, there is a circle of honor, 3 military aircraft. For their fallen young comrades, they are sending a farewell wing wave. While the aviators who have departed into the sky, we say that they are going for an eternal flight. And those planes flying over the ceremony, they make a wing wave. This is a traditional way to honor the pilots, a greeting common among aviators. 20-year-old cadet Dmitry Studinsky will be buried in his native Zhytomyr. His family recollect he tried to enter the university several times, and when he got the possibility to fly, he was absolutely happy. The most well-behaved of us, the coolest brother ever. We are proud of him. His dream came true. He used to fly and he will continue to fly. The commander, navigator and radio operator of the crashed An-26 will be buried in Kyiv. 2 more cadets in the Alloy of Glory in Kharkiv. The rest of the victims will find their final resting place in their home cities. One of the military aircraft landed in Vinnytsia today. 2 cadets, 21-year-old Maxim Khomyachuk and Roman Korchkovsky, had been brought back home. They met with guard of honor. He wanted to be like me, a trucker, and I said, it's better to be a pilot. And he really wanted to become a pilot since the 1st grade. After completing 7 years, he entered Suvorov Military College. He was going to get married soon. He was planning to graduate from university and get married. I used to talk to him on the phone every day. A An-26 military aircraft which was performing a training flight crashed on September 25 near Kyiv, Kharkiv region. There were 27 people on board, 25 died on the spot. Cadet Vitaly Verkhovy died in hospital next day. They said goodbye to him last week in Lviv region. 1 cadet, Vyacheslav Zolochevsky, survived the crash. Reported by Nick Starkov, Natalia Belokudra, Arina Kantonistova, Vitaly Demets from Kharkiv for UATV News.
The European Union will provide Ukraine with 60 million euros. 3 relevant agreements have been signed at the Ukraine-EU summit in Brussels. The money will go in particular to fight COVID-19. EU leaders also confirmed that there are no threats to a visa-free regime with Ukraine. It will resume as soon as the COVID pandemic ends.
The EU is and will remain Ukraine's biggest and most reliable partner. And we want to deepen our relationship with Ukraine even further. Our cooperation in combating COVID-19 has reconfirmed the solidarity and close partnership between the EU and Ukraine.
Large part of our conversation was devoted to war in Donbas and to the state of realization of Minsk agreements. Our European partners constructively support our work together in Minsk format. We call on the Russian Federation to implement the Minsk agreements, and I have received assurances from EU that the sanctions will be maintained as long as our sovereignty and territorial integrity is not fully restored.
High alert and full-scale military drills at the training grounds of the non-government controlled areas of Donbas. The enemy is increasing combat efficiency in spite of the established truce, Ukrainian intelligence service reports. Motorized infantry, tank, artillery units and air defense units have been brought to full combat readiness within command, and staff drills launched the day before.
Battle command posts deployment and training is carried out at training grounds and in areas where the occupying forces are concentrated. Additionally, the enemy accelerated combat training activities with the involvement of the maximum number of personnel of motorized infantry, tank, artillery and air defense units.
Parliamentary elections in Kyrgyzstan have been recognized invalid. In light of mass protests, the Central Election Commission annulled the voting results. For the second day, protests against falsifications have been raging in the country. See the details in our story.
The Parliament of Kyrgyzstan will meet for an urgent session. This time it will be held at a local hotel, since the Parliament building was destroyed by protesters in an attempt of seizing it. The fire in the White House has been extinguished. Here you can see the traces of fire. The protests, which turned into riot rallies, started as the result of announcement of the preliminary results of the parliamentary elections in Kyrgyzstan, which took place on October 4. 12 parties reported a massive fraud.
People came here to change injustice. We want to live in a fair, democratic state where legislation is working and people are equal. Authorities shouldn't usurp the power in their hands.
By night, the clashes intensified. The security forces used water cannons and stun grenades to disperse the demonstrators. Protesters responded with throwing stones and Molotov cocktails. As a result, the ex-president of the country, former prime ministers and deputies got released from prison. Kyrgyz President Sooronbay Jeenbekov reported of an attempted power seizure. A day after the announcement of the preliminary results of the parliamentary elections, the Central Election Commission cancelled them. The protesters did not obey to the law enforcement bodies. To prevent the citizens from blood spilling, I ordered not to shoot at civilians. We did our best to avoid worsening of the situation. The winning party announced its readiness for the re-election. The Biremtik political party is ready to go to the repeated elections of deputies of the Jogorku Kenesh if they are announced. Biremtik calls to the rest of parties that have overcome the 7% barrier to do the same. As a result, one person was killed and 590 sustained injuries. The current assault on the White House has become the third in the history of independent Kyrgyzstan. Two previous attempts in 2005 and 2010 ended with a change of power, reported by Nick Starkov, Ksenia Bugay for UATV News.
Anxiety, panic disorder and family relationship issues. Many Ukrainians happen to face this during the COVID-19 pandemic. The Institute for Cognitive Modeling, together with the Ministry of Health, have launched an online platform to help cope with psychological problems. Our correspondent Artem Holub will tell you more.
Jobless, self-isolation and concerns about health. These are the consequences of the pandemic, psychologists say. The Tell Me project was created to help Ukrainians cope with the crisis. Statistically, most often people have the symptoms of depression, anxiety disorders, such as fear for the future, fear of the unknown, fear of uncertainty. Before developing hypochondria, they worry about health issues. People are concerned over the symptoms, and it is quite a common problem now. 1 out of 3 starts to diagnose COVID symptoms. Any rash, fever, or nausea counts as a symptom. This affects the quality of people's life a great deal. Getting psychological support is quite easy. It is enough to go to the project's website and submit an application there.
Вводите ваше имя, вводите номер телефона.
Enter your name, your phone number, what's worrying you, specify your problem. There are dozens of different specializations here, let's say health anxiety. Describe the key problem in your request.
The project's team is composed of over 100 psychologists, psychiatrists and psychotherapists. Aid is provided free of charge. In our country, as in the post-Soviet space, there is no culture of communication with psychotherapist or psychologist. It is believed that if you are addressed to a specialist, then something is wrong with you. In fact, this is not right. In Western countries, it's just like going to the dentist. We are trying to popularize this. People need to understand that this is absolutely normal. It's like going to a dentist or a therapist. You need to monitor your health. More than 4,000 people have already applied for psychological counseling. Reported by Nick Starkov, Artem Holub, Alexander Bugay, Kyiv for UATV News.
Bright colors, soft texture, atmosphere of coziness and variety of exhibits. Knitting exhibition Warm Autumn is held in Kyiv. About 50 needle women are presenting their works here, from rugs and blankets to mittens and beads. More details in our next report. You need to throw the thread over a finger, and with this finger just hold, and the knitting needle goes in the loop, this way.
Not every grandma is able to knit warm socks for her grandchildren, but these are also real needlewomen in Ukraine. For an exhibition, Natalia chose bright products in order to help everyone improve their autumn mood darkened by the pandemic.
This is not just a cat. This is a cat that runs along the meadow with daisies, surrounded by bees. You can develop the topic as you wish. The nose is swollen because it got stung by a bee. I wanted this bright pattern to make you smile.
Natalia started knitting as a schoolgirl, and since then it has remained her hobby. She says that people buy hand-knitted items because of some special positive energy they irradiate.
Nobody knits when they feel sad or when they are in a bad mood. Actually, you need to calm down first. Then you take knitting, needles or a hook and start to create.
A palette with colored balls in the photo zone symbolizes that knitting is not just a craft but a whole artistic direction which combines sewing, embroidery and drawing. Every visitor of the Warm Autumn exhibition finds his or her own object to admire.
How much fantasy everyone needs to have to reproduce it all. Look at these mice and those cats, fish and even apples with a worm inside. Just wonderful.
The Warm Autumn exhibition has been held for the 5th year in a row. Not only famous craftsmen, but also children and pensioners take part in it.
In order to popularize this art, to show how multifaceted it is, and that not only grandmothers can knit socks, but people of different ages are keen on this craft, and they use a huge variety of techniques.
Some exhibits can only be seen through a magnifying glass, like these cute animals in the dollhouse. Reported by Nick Starkov, Olena Diduch, Maxim Gradobek, Kyiv for UATV News.
That's all for this hour. More updates on our Facebook, YouTube, Twitter pages. Stay safe and good night.